Welcome back to my channel. It's Faith here again, and today's video is going to be how to test your undertone and your skin for foundation. So I know a lot of girls probably, if you're like me, when you first started wearing foundation, you probably had no clue like what that in undertone even mattered. So this video I'm going to try to answer all your foundation questions. If I by chance do not answer them, then please leave a comment in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and let's get started. So the first step is to figure out what undertone you have. So and I have notes here, guys, so if I keep looking down, I'm sorry. There's just a lot of things to this video, and I want to make sure that I don't leave you guys hanging, and I hopefully will answer all your questions. So one thing that is a good way to test for me is if you look at the veins on the back of your hand. So basically, if your veins tend to be a little bit more blue, then it's going to be more likely that you have cool undertones. If they look a little greenish, then you're going to tend to have warm undertones. So also, warm girls out there, your veins are not actually green. What you're seeing is you're seeing the yellow come through, and yellow plus blue equals green. So you don't actually look like you have green veins. Another way to decide too is if you don't really lean toward one more predominantly, if you have like blue and green veins, then that means like a mix of both, and that means you're going to be neutral. So that means you can go either way. Another great way to test is the jewelry trick, which you've probably heard this before. If you look better in silver jewelry, now this is not like if you like it more or if you think it looks, this is if you think it looks better, if it makes you look radiant. Typically girls with cool undertones look better in silver or platinum jewelry. And the exact opposite, girls that are in have warm tones are going to look better in gold jewelry. And if you look like fantastic in both, then you are more neutral. So that's just a quick way to kind of give you an idea of how to know what type of undertone you have, because it does truthfully matter. Now, if you're going to Sephora or Ulta, they will have, you can take home samples. I know Ulta doesn't do this, and I think they do it for liability purposes. I know Sephora does for sure, and MAC counters do as well. You can go in there and they will actually give you samples. Now, Sephora, Ulta, and MAC, I know that you can go in and actually have them test your color. So even if you are wearing makeup, they can take the makeup off, you can put it on, they can try you. I know it's really important to know what type of skin you have. So now we're talking about what type of skin you actually have, not the tone. And if you tend to have a lot of oil on your face, like if you have oil around this part of your face, up here, different places like that, then you're going to lean more having toward oily skin. If you tend to be a little more dry and peely, then you're going to tend to have more dry skin. I mean, it kind of, in the name, it'll give you a hint of what kind of skin you have. If you tend to have a combination where you don't really lean one way to the other, it's a kind of a combination, a little bit oil, a little bit dry, then you're going to have a combination skin. Now, when you are picking a foundation out, it will say on here, like for instance, this is by Smashbox, and this is a hydrating foundation. Well, if you tend to have oily skin, don't really go for a hydrating foundation. That's just going to make you look more shiny and more oily. If you want to, I love looking at the bottles, and I'll look and it'll say like this, la 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 la, it'll say like this is so much coverage, this will say, or it'll say something to the extent of this is like for all skin types or combination skin types. So definitely check out the bottle, that will definitely help. I know there are several different kinds of foundation. So you have your stick, you have liquid, cream, and you have a powder foundation. So liquid tends to be for all skin types. You can get with the one with a matte finish. For those of you who have oily skin, you can get them with a hydrating finish like this one right here, and that'll help you not be as dry. A cream foundation tends to be a little bit heavier. So if you tend to have oily skin, do not go for a cream foundation. This is what I would consider a cream foundation. I did look on their website. They do not consider this a cream foundation, but this to me is a cream foundation. And as you can see, it's one of my favorite foundations to use. If you rub your finger in it, it just tends to be a little bit creamy. It's not so creamy that it's like a liquid, but it is creamy, and creamier foundations tend to give a heavier look. But they also have a lot more moisturizing properties in them, so if you tend to have dry skin, then that's you're gonna probably want to go for a cream foundation. It is heavier coverage. It just depends. It should say on each bottle what the coverage is. If you're like me, you want heavy coverage, because I tend to be, which I've lightened up a little bit, but I tend to feel like my foundation, and this is no pun intended, it's literally the foundation to all my makeup. So if my foundation is off, I feel like, ugh. That's just me. Not everyone is that way. As far as stick foundation tends to be a little more high-end makeup, and it is kind of dying out. It used to be super popular in the 60s and 70s and stuff, and people in television tend to use this kind of foundation. People with oily skin, this is good for you. And the reason why is because you already have that moisture in your skin, so when you put that stick foundation on, it's going to kind of adhere to your face a little bit better, whereas if you have dry skin, it's going to kind of tend to show those dry, peely patches, and you do not want that at all. Now, powder foundation, they are making actually moisture powders, which is surprising, like moisturizing powders, so they aren't just for people who have oily skin. Personally, for me, I had dry skin, especially in the winter time. It's gotten a little better for summer, but even though I did have that dry skin, I still always set my makeup, my liquid foundation, with a powder. It's like a must-have for me. I must use a powder. If I don't, I feel like I'm gonna like sweat makeup off and stuff. I love to set my foundation with powder. But as far as there are different coverages too as far as powders go. But they can, if you do have super dry skin, they can tend to make your face look kind of peely and crackly as well, so do be careful with that. Now, as far as if you're going to the drugstore, I know that you can't always test the products on your skin. I know there's kind of people that say like, oh, don't do the back of your hand, do your neck, do this, do that. If you take the bottle and hold it up to your face, the bottle, just a tip here, if it's gonna look it's gonna be a little darker than what's in the bottle, if that makes sense. Now, as far as drugstore goes, I know you can't always try on the products, so it's also good to, I think it's also good to take a friend with you. That will help too. That way someone can kind of see, like, and you guys can both get your own opinion about what looks good, what doesn't. Another good way to do it is, so if you figured out your skin tone, so foundations tend to have names like Cool Buff or Warm Beige or something like that. So that'll kind of give you a hint or an idea of what kind of foundation you should be looking for. So if you tend to have a cool undertone, then Cool Buff might be kind of right down the road of what kind of foundation you need. If you tend to have a warm skin tone, then Warm Buff might be down the road you might need. And foundation, drugstore brands do that because they know that they do not give out samples and you can't always open up the bottle. I don't know why they don't. I wish they did. That'd probably make everyone's life so much easier. So now, once you figured out your foundation, I'm going to go into tips for things that do not do when you're applying your foundation. So one big thing is, and this may seem kind of silly, but people probably don't realize that makeup does have a shelf life. And generally when they put the product on the shelf, it's about 3 years. That's what their shelf life is. And generally, if you can't find it on the bottle, sometimes they do not put it on the bottle. Like this bottle by Maybelline, I do not see where it says what the shelf life is for it, but I know sometimes they will have it on here. Generally, it's no more than 3 years. So if you can't see it, you can go by that. But other products, like this product right here by Smashbox, if you look right here, it'll say, like, trying to get my camera to focus in on this right here. It may or may not. It'll say like 24 months right there. So you just kind of have to try to remember. Some people, maybe you can mark it down on like a piece of paper or something, because do not use old makeup. That will not be good for your skin at all. Another quick hint as well is when you are putting on foundation, don't forget to blend it down into your neck a little bit. I've heard it said before, oh, don't go down to your neck. No, by all means, go down to your neck. Like, nobody wants to see this awful looking line from here to here. Now, you shouldn't have a line, but it's just going to help smooth out and ensure if you have the right foundation, you shouldn't have this problem. But it's also going to help ensure if you take your foundation about 1 inch or so down your neck, blend it out a little bit. That will help as well. Also doing circular motions. I'm going to pull out one of my brushes. As you can see, I do not have on foundation right now. So I'm going to pull out, this is by It Cosmetics. This is one of their liquid powder brushes. Also, if you do round circular motions, it'll help cover your pores a little bit better. And I do recommend, and I'm not sponsored at all or in any way, shape, or form by IT brushes, but I do recommend if you're looking for awesome new brushes, IT Cosmetics brushes. I do recommend the Airbrush. This is their airbrush collection. This is one for powder, this is one for liquid foundation. They are amazing brushes, and they do come in sets for like beginners and different things like that. They are a little bit more on the pricier side, but well worth the money. When you take care of your brushes, when you take care of IT brushes, they are definitely going to last you. Also, another tip, going back to when you're picking out foundations in a drugstore, don't forget that foundations also, they tend to be darker in the bottle. So just to give you an idea, if you look at something and you're like, oh, this matches, probably tend to lean towards something that it looks a little too light for your skin tone in the bottle. That's just another tip. Also, one other thing too, and I know I've heard of girls doing this as well, do not, like, never, ever, ever in the history of ever sleep in your makeup, guys. Like, oh my goodness, that is awful for your skin. It's going to clog your pores, which is going to cause you to break out more, which is going to cause your foundation to not look as nice, and it's also going to make you feel a whole lot more insecure because you're going to have these face breakouts, and they will break out whether you're 20, 30. If you sleep in your makeup, it's going to clog your pores up. So every night, I know sometimes we're tired. I get it. You come home from a long day of work, you do not feel like taking off your makeup, but please take off your makeup. Your pores will thank you. Actually, they'll thank me because I told you. Anyway, guys, so that's the conclusion of this video. If you have any other questions about foundation or picking out the right kind of foundation, please leave them in the comment section below. I'd love to answer your questions. Thank you guys, and you guys have an awesome day.